Architected vintage British egg recipe script with period authentic details and narrative structure. Picture this. It's 1952 in a back kitchen in Salford. The ration book is empty, the wages don't come till Friday, and there are 6 mouths around the table. Your grandmother opens the pantry, pulls out 4 eggs, and somehow feeds the lot of them a proper hot tea for less than the price of a postage stamp. That wasn't luck. That was skill. Number 14 on this list was so cheap the Ministry of Food printed pamphlets about it during rationing, and number 3 uses an egg in a way modern cookbooks have completely forgotten. These weren't just thrifty tricks. They were brilliance dressed up as housekeeping. Hit subscribe before we start, because what you're about to learn could shave pounds off your weekly Tesco shop. Let us count down the 25 secret British egg tricks that fed entire families for under £1 a day. Number 25. The cold water freshness test. Your grandmother never trusted a date stamp on an egg. She filled a glass with cold water and dropped the egg in. If it sank flat to the bottom, fresh as the morning. If it stood up on end, still good, but use it today. If it floated, straight in the bin. No second guessing. The science behind this is genuinely clever. As an egg ages, the porous shell lets air seep in, expanding the air sac inside. More air, more buoyancy. In the 1940s, when cracking a bad egg into a Victoria sponge meant losing a precious £1/4 pound of flour and half a tin of margarine, this test saved fortunes. A single rotten egg ruined Sunday tea and a week's baking. Modern stamping makes us lazy and wasteful. The water test was infallible, took 10 seconds and cost nothing. Number 24. Water glass preservation. Long before fridges, every British pantry had a stoneware crock tucked in the cool corner of the larder, filled with cloudy, thick liquid. That was sodium silicate, sold as water glass, and your grandmother used it to keep summer eggs through winter. 6 dozen eggs from June, lowered carefully pointed end down into the jar, would last until February, with the yolks still firm enough for a sponge. The water glass sealed every pore in the shell, blocking bacteria. A tin of water glass crystals cost about 8 pence and preserved enough eggs to feed a family for 6 months. When wartime rationing capped fresh eggs at 1 per person per fortnight, families with water glass jars ate omelettes while neighbours ate dripping. Modern fridges replaced this skill, but a 2018 Reading University study found water glass preserved eggs lasted 3 times longer than refrigerated ones, with no quality loss. The Edwardians were ahead of us. Number 23. Eggshells for the laundry. Your grandmother saved every shell after cracking eggs. She'd crush them fine, soak them overnight in cold water, and use that cloudy liquid to whiten lace collars and christening gowns. The calcium carbonate in the shells acted as a gentle abrasive that lifted grey from delicate fabrics nothing else dared touch. Half a cup of shells in 2 pints of water did the work of bleach without rotting threads. Sunday best stayed Sunday best. This trick filled the back pages of every Mrs. Beeton edition right up to 1960. We pay nearly £5 a bottle now for fabric whiteners that contain almost identical compounds. Your grandmother had it for free in the bin alongside the tea leaves she scattered on the carpet to lift dust before the Hoover came along. Number 22. The proper egg mayonnaise. Sandwich filling for a working-class tea was a science, not a slop. 2 hard-boiled eggs, a teaspoon of Heinz salad cream, a pinch of salt, white pepper, and a fistful of garden cress went into a white china bowl. Mashed with a fork until the yolks broke into yellow flecks, but the whites stayed in chunks. That texture mattered. All mash was baby food. All chunk was pub fare. The middle ground spread on mother's pride, white sliced, crusts cut off, divided into triangles, fed 4 schoolchildren for 2p. The cress added pepper and crunch. A box cost 2 pence at the greengrocer's and grew on a damp flannel for weeks. Tesco egg mayo costs nearly £2 for a sad little tub now. Yours cost less than a stamp and tasted of summer. Number 21. Eggy bread. Stale bread was the enemy until your grandmother turned it into Saturday breakfast. 1 egg whisked with 2 tablespoons of milk, a pinch of salt, soaked through 4 slices of yesterday's loaf, fried in a knob of bacon fat, and you had a meal for the children. The egg made the bread custard inside, while the outside crisped golden brown. Sprinkled with sugar for pudding or topped with HP sauce for savory, it was the same recipe with 2 destinies. A 4-day-old loaf bound for the ducks became Saturday morning instead. The Ministry of Food called it Savory Fingers in their 1943 pamphlet, deliberately avoiding the French name during the war. Whatever you called it, the kitchen smelled like Christmas morning every time, and a loaf that should have cost a penny lost actually cost a penny gained. Number 20. Pickled eggs in malt vinegar. Every back kitchen had a tall glass jar on the windowsill, packed with hard-boiled eggs floating in dark malt vinegar, peppercorns and slices of beetroot. After 2 weeks, those eggs turned a deep magenta on the outside, the white shading from purple to ivory, and they kept for months without refrigeration. Pubs sold them for 4p alongside the pork scratchings. Your grandmother made hers for free with eggs from the chickens out back and the dregs of yesterday's chip shop vinegar bottle. Sliced over a ploughman's lunch with a hunk of mature cheddar and a pickled onion, that's how working men ate when steakhouses didn't exist. Asda sells pickled eggs in plastic now for £2.50 a jar. Yours fed a Whitsun fate for 2p halfpenny. Number 19. The stretched egg curry. First pattern break. Right, this is where it gets clever. Indian cuisine arrived in British kitchens in the 1950s with curry powder from Sharwood's, and your grandmother adapted everything. A proper egg curry stretched 2 hard-boiled eggs into a meal for 5. Onions fried slow until golden, a teaspoon of Madras curry powder, a tin of tomatoes, a spoon of Sharwood's mango chutney, and the eggs sliced in halves at the end. Served over rice with a wedge of buttered bread on the side. Total cost in 1962, about 9p. The trick was the chutney. That spoonful of sweetness balanced the heat without sugar and made cheap curry powder taste like something from the Raj. Tinned tomatoes were 5p, an onion a penny, 2 eggs 3p. Curry house meals start at £12 now per head. Yours cost less than a stamp and tasted of empire. Number 18. The Bombay omelette. Distinct from the egg curry, the Bombay omelette was breakfast or supper. 2 eggs whisked with chopped onion, a green chilli if you had one, a sprinkle of fresh coriander, a pinch of turmeric and salt poured into a hot pan with a spoon of dripping. Cooked flat, folded once, served on hot buttered toast. Anglo-Indian families brought this back from Karachi and Calcutta during partition, and British wives married to ex-army officers picked it up at officers' mess clubs. The turmeric did 2 jobs at once. Made the omelette golden yellow and gave it a faint, earthy taste that lifted the eggs. A pinch of turmeric cost about 2p and lasted a year in the spice tin. Modern brunch menus in Shoreditch charge £9 for Mumbai eggs now. The recipe is identical and 70 years old. Number 17. Cheese and onion egg pie. Your grandmother's cheese and egg pie was Welsh in origin and quiet in genius. Short crust pastry rolled thin into a pie dish, scattered with grated mousetrap cheddar and finely diced raw onion, then 4 whole eggs cracked on top, careful not to break the yolks. A pinch of salt, white pepper, 20 minutes in a hot oven. The whites set firm around the orange yolks while the cheese melted into the pastry below, sealing it. You served it cold for a lunchbox or hot with a smear of HP sauce. One pie fed 4 people for under a shilling. Ginsters charges nearly £3 for a single cheese and onion pasty now with no egg in it at all and pastry that goes soggy in 2 hours. Your grandmother's pie kept for 2 days in the meat safe and tasted better the second day. Number 16. The cold bacon and egg pie. Distinct from the cheese version, the bacon and egg pie was strictly a picnic affair. Pastry top and bottom, layers of streaky bacon and whole eggs cooked inside their pastry shell, sealed and baked golden. Cooled overnight in the meat safe under a beaded muslin cloth. Sliced into wedges for the seaside. A picnic for the Whitsun bank holiday at Brighton. 6 wedges of pie, a pork pie, a flask of tea, and a bottle of Tizer for the children. Total cost in 1959, around 2 and 6. The Tizer alone was 9p. Today you'd pay 20 quid for a Cornish pasty and a coffee at the same beach. Cold pastry sealed the bacon fat in. The egg stayed firm through 6 hours on Brighton seafront. Your grandmother fed 9 people on the front for less than a quid. Number 15, the stretched Yorkshire. Yorkshire pudding was the secret way to make 1 egg feed 8. The proper recipe was 4 ounces of plain flour, half a pint of milk, 1 egg, a teaspoon of salt, beaten hard and rested for an hour. Poured into a smoking hot tin of beef dripping, it puffed up 6 inches tall and golden brown. Cut into squares, served with onion gravy as a starter before the meat course. By the time the children had filled up on Yorkshire, the half-pound of beef went round 8 people instead of 3. The egg was the binder, the protein, and the secret to the rise. 1 egg cost a penny. The pudding fed the whole family. Modern recipes use 3 eggs and don't rise as well, because eggs were never the secret. The hot dripping was. Yorkshire wives understood thermodynamics by instinct decades before anyone bothered to write it down. Number 14. Scotch eggs from forced sausage meat. Number 14 was so cheap, the Ministry of Food printed pamphlets about it during rationing. A proper Scotch egg used 1 boiled egg, 4 ounces of cheap sausage meat from Walls, a coating of breadcrumbs from Saturday's stale loaf, and a deep fry in lard. The egg cost a penny, the sausage meat 4p for half a pound, which made 2 whole Scotch eggs, the breadcrumbs free. 2 Scotch eggs cut in halves fed 4 for tea with a green salad and a wedge of bread and butter. Total cost 5p in 1953. Marks & Spencer sells a single Scotch egg for nearly £4 now. The Ministry of Food pamphlet from 1942 read, "A Scotch egg is 2 meals if you cut it right." Your grandmother knew that. They were called Scotch because the original 1738 recipe came from Fortnum and Mason and was never Scottish at all. Number 13, egg in a hole. Your grandmother's egg in a hole was a single slice of bread with a circle cut from the center using the rim of a teacup, fried in butter, with an egg cracked into the hole. The cut-out circle fried alongside as a soldier for dipping. 1 egg, 1 slice of bread, a knob of butter, and the children went off to school, full and warm. The trick was timing. Crack the egg the moment the bread hit the pan. Flip carefully so the yolk stayed soft. Some grandmothers called this one-eyed Jack. Others called it egg in a basket. Some called it gypsy egg. In 1950s households, this was the breakfast that signaled a payday morning. The egg was treat enough. Cost in 1955, about 3 halfpence per child. Today's equivalent at a brunch cafe is 12 quid, and they don't even cut the hole properly. Number 12, the bird's custard stretch, second pattern break. Now here's where the food companies got involved, and not always fairly. Alfred Bird invented his custard powder in 1837 because his wife couldn't eat eggs. By 1955, your grandmother used Bird's custard with 1 real egg yolk stirred in to make it taste homemade. The packet said 3 tablespoons of powder to a pint of milk, but adding 1 yolk turned that pale yellow gloop into something golden and silky and rich. The yolk added depth and color without the danger of curdling that pure egg custard always carried. A tin of Bird's cost 9p and lasted 2 months. 1 egg yolk cost a halfpenny. Pour over apple pie, and nobody at the table would believe it wasn't proper homemade custard. Here's the irony nobody talks about. Birds spent millions advertising their powder as superior to fresh custard. Your grandmother knew that 1 yolk made it indistinguishable. The whites went straight into meringue. Nothing wasted. Number 11, proper lemon curd from yolks. When the Christmas baking left 6 egg yolks behind in a bowl, your grandmother made lemon curd. 6 yolks, 4 ounces of butter, 8 ounces of caster sugar, the juice and zest of 3 lemons, all whisked over a double boiler for 15 patient minutes until thick enough to coat the back of a wooden spoon. Poured into hot kilner jars, sealed while still steaming, and lasted 3 months in the cool larder. Spread on toast for breakfast, dolloped over rice pudding, sandwiched between layers of Victoria sponge. A jar of homemade lemon curd cost about 8p in ingredients and was a 1962 birthday present in itself, tied with a strip of tartan ribbon. Wilkin & Sons sells artisan lemon curd at £4.50 a jar now. The recipe is absolutely identical. Your grandmother's tasted better because the lemons were fresher. Number 10. Meringue from the leftover whites. 6 yolks for curd meant 6 whites for meringue. Your grandmother whisked those whites with 12 ounces of caster sugar until stiff and glossy and standing in peaks, piped them onto greaseproof paper, and dried them in the oven on the lowest gas mark for 3 hours, with the door propped open with a wooden spoon. A tin of meringue nests stayed crisp for a fortnight, ready to fill with whipped evaporated milk and tinned mandarin segments for unexpected visitors at the WI. The whole batch cost 6p in sugar and used what would otherwise have been thrown straight in the bin. A pavlova at Marks & Spencer is £4 for a pack of 4 now. Yours made 20, and the technique was older than the dish itself. Pavlova was named in 1926 after Anna Pavlova danced in Australia. Your grandmother was making the same meringue in 1955, calling it simply meringues. Number 9. The proper egg custard tart. A real egg custard tart used 3 eggs, half a pint of full cream gold top milk, 2 tablespoons of caster sugar, a generous grating of fresh nutmeg, and a short crust case blind baked until pale gold. Baked at 150 degrees for 40 long minutes until the surface barely jiggled and the nutmeg crust was caramelized. Cut into 8 wedges. Total cost in 1955, around a shilling. The trick was the temperature. Too hot and the custard split into water and curd. Too cold and it never set. Your grandmother knew by feel. She'd open the oven, give the tart a gentle shake, and see if it wobbled like a jelly or rippled like water. Mr. Kipling sells custard tarts for £2 a pack of 6 now, and they taste of corn flour and despair. The original was magnificent enough to serve at a christening. Number 8. Bread and butter pudding with extra eggs. While the standard recipe used 2 eggs, your grandmother's secret weapon was always 3. The extra egg turned bread and butter pudding from a soggy tea-time afterthought into a proper Sunday dessert. 3 eggs whisked with a pint of milk, 2 ounces of demerara sugar, a splash of brandy if there happened to be a bottle in the back of the cupboard, poured over buttered slices of yesterday's loaf studded with sultanas, and a sprinkle of nutmeg. Baked until the top was crisp and the inside set like custard. The 3rd egg gave the pudding structure to slice cleanly without falling apart on the spoon. Cold the next day with a spoon of double cream, it was even better than the night before. A whole pudding cost about 9p and fed 8 people twice. Bread and butter pudding at Pizza Express now is £6 for a portion the size of a deck of cards. Number 7. Egg mayo on hot toast. 3rd pattern break. Now here is where it gets interesting. Your grandmother's emergency tea was egg mayonnaise on hot buttered toast. 2 boiled eggs mashed with a tablespoon of Heinz salad cream, salt and white pepper, spread thick on white toast still warm enough to melt a slick of butter underneath. 5 minutes start to finish. Children adored it. Husbands ate it without complaint after a long shift. The toast had to be hot. That was the rule. Cold toast turned the egg mayo into school dinner sandwiches. Hot toast turned it into something close to luxury, the butter melting into the corners. The Heinz salad cream was the secret ingredient. Mayonnaise alone was too rich and oily. Salad cream had vinegar and mustard and a sharp tang that lifted the eggs. A jar cost 11p and lasted 6 months. Today's egg mayo on toast at Pret is nearly £5 and they use cold bread. The Philistines. Number 6. Welsh rarebit with a poached egg. Welsh rarebit was already a stretching trick. A paste of grated cheddar, a tablespoon of milk, English mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and a glug of beer if your grandfather had left any in the bottle, poured over toast and grilled until bubbling. Adding a poached egg on top elevated it from snack to supper. Buck rarebit was the official name for this combination, recorded in Mrs. Beeton from 1861. 2 slices of buck rarebit fed 2 grown adults a proper meal for under 6p. The egg added protein, the cheese added fat, the toast added bulk, the runny yolk piercing the cheese sauce when cut. Modern gastropubs charge £8.50 for buck rarebit now, with a fried egg slapped on top, never poached. The original used a properly poached egg in white wine vinegar water. Your grandmother could turn 15 pence into a feast. Number 5. Egg fried rice from yesterdays. Chinese takeaways arrived on British high streets in the 1960s, but your grandmother had been making egg fried rice for years before they did. Yesterday's leftover white rice, a tablespoon of dripping in a hot frying pan. The rice stirred until separating grain by grain, then a beaten egg poured in and scrambled through with a wooden spoon. A few peas from the freezer compartment, a splash of soy sauce if she had a bottle from the back of the spice cupboard, and tea was on the table in 8 minutes flat. The trick was day-old rice. Fresh rice turned to porridge in the pan. Cold rice from yesterday separated grain by grain when fried in hot fat. A bowl cost about 4 pence in ingredients. The Wong Kei in Wardour Street charges £6 for the same dish now. The recipe came from a 1968 Good Housekeeping magazine and went straight into your grandmother's notebook in pencil. Number 4. The coddled egg. Your grandmother's coddled egg was breakfast for the invalid, the elderly, or the spoiled child after measles. A small porcelain pot with a screw-on lid, greased inside with butter, an egg cracked in, a pinch of salt and pepper and a teaspoon of cream, then sealed and lowered into a pan of boiling water for exactly 5 minutes by the kitchen clock. The egg cooked gently, the white firm but the yolk still soft, eaten straight from the pot with a teaspoon and a finger of buttered toast. Royal Doulton sold matching sets of egg coddlers from 1910 right up to 1970. Most British grandmothers had at least 4 in graduated sizes. The technique was kinder than boiling, kinder than poaching, and the egg never overcooked because the porcelain insulated it from harsh direct heat. Modern celebrity chefs charge 15 quid for sous vide eggs at restaurants now. The technique is identical and 100 years older. Number 3. The egg in mashed potato. Fourth and final pattern break. Now here's where I'd argue the grandmothers got things genuinely, undeniably right. Number 3 uses an egg in a way modern cookbooks have completely forgotten. After mashing the potatoes for tea, your grandmother would crack 1 whole egg into the bowl and beat it through hard while the mash was still hot. The egg cooked instantly in the residual heat, binding the potato into a glossy, almost mousse-like texture that no modern restaurant can match without expensive equipment. The result was Duchess potato without the piping bag. It went under shepherd's pie tops, formed the base of fish cakes, and stretched a single pound of potatoes to feed 7 mouths instead of 4. The protein from the egg meant a meal of mashed potato actually filled the children right up to bedtime. Without the egg, mashed potato slumped into starchy paste an hour after serving. With the egg beaten through, it stayed cloud-like for the whole meal, holding its shape on the plate. This trick appeared in the 1956 B-Row Home Recipe Book and disappeared from cookbooks by 1985. Why? Because food companies started selling smash instant mash, and instant mash can't accept a raw egg without going lumpy and grey. We lost a brilliant technique to a powdered convenience nobody asked for. Number 2, the Chinese steamed egg. Few British grandmothers in the 1960s had encountered Chinese cooking, but those married to merchant seamen who docked in Liverpool had picked up steamed egg custard from Hong Kong and Shanghai. 1 egg whisked with 2 tablespoons of warm chicken stock, a splash of soy sauce, a tiny pinch of sugar poured into a teacup and steamed over a pan of boiling water for 8 minutes with the lid on. The result was a savory custard so smooth it was eaten with a spoon and tasted like silk. 1 egg fed 2 people. Cost about 3 pence. The trick was the warm stock. Cold stock made the custard split into bubbles. Boiling stock cooked the egg before it could steam. Your grandmother served it as a starter, an invalid food after the flu, or a side dish to roast chicken. Mayfair Chinese restaurants charge £14 for the same dish now and call it chawanmushi, or steamed egg. 3 eggs, 3 teacups, an entire family fed for under £1. And in first place, number 1, bubble and squeak with a fried egg. The genius dish of all British grandmothers. Monday's tea made from Sunday's leftovers, with one cracked egg as the elevation. Cold mashed potato, leftover boiled cabbage, a knob of dripping in the heavy iron pan, fried until the bottom turned crispy and brown, flipped with a fish slice to crisp the other side, and topped with a fresh fried egg, yolk runny enough to cut into the bubble and squeak below. The egg was everything. The bubble and squeak alone was leftovers. With the egg cracked on top, the yolk pooled into the cabbage and potato, and a free meal became a proper supper worth waiting for. Your grandfather would salt his egg, lift the yolk with the corner of buttered bread, and call it the best meal of the week, better than the Sunday roast it came from. Total cost, nothing. The bubble and squeak was already paid for by Sunday's joint. The egg cost a penny. Bubble and squeak with a fried egg fed 4 people on a Monday for 1 single penny per head. That, more than any other dish, is why your grandmother could feed a family for under £1 a day. She didn't waste an ounce, and she made magic with what was left. Here is my challenge. Try one of these this week, just one. The water test, the egg in the mashed potato, the bubble and squeak with a fried egg on top, or the Chinese steamed egg in a teacup. Then come back and tell me whether your grandmother was just being thrifty or whether she was actually a quiet culinary genius the whole time, because I tested these. My kitchen now has a stoneware crock for water glass eggs. My mash always has an egg beaten through it, and my children asked me last Sunday why we'd been eating Yorkshire pudding wrong all these years. Tell me in the comments which one you're going to try first. I want to know if anyone else's nan kept a pickled egg jar on the windowsill. Because these weren't just tricks. They were the wisdom of a generation that fed Britain on pennies, and we forgot it almost overnight. Your grandmother knew. Now you do too.